Welcome to Cannabis School. I'm your host, Jesse Angeles.
And I'm Brandon Elder.
And we're here to talk to you about everything pertaining to cannabis, from vape,
flower,
edibles,
strains,
and everything in between.
We have a CBD, we have a THC gummy that you can ship. It's legal to mail.
Yeah,
Okay.
because of
right?
the limits
of the 0.3%. So it's a 10 milligram. I have 3 products that we're having delivered this week, right?
Very
They're
cool.
Kindly MD gummies. And one of them is called Missy's Micros, which is designed for my sister who has colon cancer and who doesn't use cannabis enough. I think we talked about this before. You know, there's a lot of people who want to use cannabis, but they get high and then they get a little uncomfortable. And so they don't use it consistently.
Right.
But there's not a lot of good products that are truly what I would consider as a provider who teaches people how to use it, a true medical product. So we designed a product that has 30 milligrams CBD, 15 milligrams CBG, CBC, CBDV, THCV,
awesome.
and 6 milligrams, or per serving, it's 3 milligrams of THC, Delta 9 THC, no Delta 8.
Yeah, that's good.
So Delta 9 THC. So if you take a full gummy, it's 6 milligrams THC. So there's that one. There's another one that's CBD, CBG, and THC, 10 milligrams per gummy of Delta 9. So they're designed to be cut in half. But
Okay.
as far as the way they're manufactured, they needed to be, it was just a cost thing where we couldn't do 20 gummies. It was easier to just do 10 and double up the cannabinoids. So you cut them in half, but they're 5 milligrams of THC, Delta 9 per gummy, or per serving.
Yeah.
10 milligrams per gummy. And you can mail them.
Wow, that's fantastic.
Yeah, that's
But we were talking about whether or not to bring this up because the reach, it may crush us. Your podcast, we have 3,000 units.
No, but that actually is good. I mean, if you think about it from a marketing perspective, that's good. That's great. I mean, if you sold out, that would be amazing.
Well, sure.
And that's great press on there. So it's just like, cool, wins it back. And that's where we were thinking about, like, I was telling Brandon about, you've seen ads for Mood.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And the way they talk about it, they are a Delta 8 product.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I saw that and they're like legal in all 50 states, bullshit. That's wrong.
Yeah, that's wrong. Now, as of December 1st, 2022, they're illegal in Utah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, you can't, and the way they talk about it, like there's this woman and she's smoking a joint that's just hemp sprayed on with some Delta 8.
Yeah.
And she's like, yep, that's right. I can smoke cannabis out there because of the Farm Bill in 2018. I'm like, whoa, you are misleading everybody.
That's a little loose with the rules there.
Yeah. Totally. And the way that they're pitching it, I mean, it's like it's always like, I'm a boss bitch. What's up? Cannabis, what's up? It makes me stronger, angrier. And they're like, well, first of all, you would be acting
That's
this way.
tequila.
Yes.
That's funny.
But then they have this guy and he's like, hey, what are you doing to chill out? Me? I ate this gummy 30 minutes ago. And I'm like, you're hurting it again. What are you doing?
The stigma that
No, what are you doing?
So question, you have 3 products, but you also have 3 close family members that kind of pushed you into cannabis. Are the other 2 products?
Oh, good question. So no, Missy's Micros is the only one that's named for my sister, Michelle. We call her Missy, so that's that product. And then the other 2 are a CBG blend and a CBN blend. Because I'm new to this, as far as a product design and launch, I don't know. Do you name them all? Do you not name them all? Do you do this? I don't know. We launched our Kindly MD brand. And so I made them Kindly MD gummies.
No, that's
they're just
really
Kindly
recent
MD.
that Kindly MD has come out.
Oh yeah. I mean, this is really why we're here, right? Is to talk a lot about, well, I'm here to talk about Kind the MD. So
Yeah.
we started out with, let me give you the backstory.
Yeah,
Welcome to the podcast, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So the backstory is 2020, early 2020, I put my name on Google Maps, downtown Salt Lake, Utah Medical Marijuana Card Clinic, get your card. Started seeing patients with utahmarijuana.org. That's our name.
Yeah.
Basically. That's the billboards up in Utah, and that's who we are. Essentially saying, if you want good information about medical cannabis in Utah, you can come through me, you can come through our providers, you can get good information. We're not going to bullshit you. We're just going to give it to you straight. But it not necessarily a card mill either. Some place where you can come talk about your medicine. We're providers. We care about people. And we started seeing patients in 2020. Then that grew to where now we're the largest provider of medical cannabis recommendations in Utah. We take care of 15,000 Utah. Of the 60,000 Utah card members, we take care of about 15,000 of them.
That's awesome.
Awesome.
Yeah, so you're 25% of Utah's base.
Basically, right?
Yeah.
So,
and you won Best Medical Cannabis Doctor in Utah of 2022.
couple of years. Yep.
Yeah.
2 years in a row.
Oh,
this
solid.
year we won best with the launch of Kindly. We won the best healthcare consultant of 2022 in Salt Lake City.
Take that.
Right? Take that. Right? Take that, IHC.
Yeah.
So we do this. We had this. We have a Utah or a YouTube channel called Discover Marijuana, where we do. I teamed up with bioanalytical chemist Blake Smith, great guy who knows a lot about the pharmacokinetics of cannabis and the synthetic cannabinoids. He designed and manufactured drugs for the pharmaceutical industry, and then had a daughter with a seizure disorder that really responded really well to a blend of cannabinoids that were very specific that he researched and found. And so we did this YouTube channel together, and we still put out about an episode a week on that YouTube channel, Discover Marijuana. It's super cool. It's not Cheech and Chong, it's a couple of middle-aged white guys.
Yeah, but
right.
That's better though. I mean, that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to change that story.
Yeah.
I recently was talking to an individual. She was saying like the Delta 9 is a great way, and she was trying to pitch this to somebody else, saying Delta 9 is a great way to not get into THC, where you're like a mom at home and you can't even take care of your kids because you use cannabis. And I'm like, that's a misrepresentation. Why would you say that? Like cannabis users are like pill poppers. Like we're just,
right.
I can't control myself on. I've never heard anybody.
I can't function because I'm just like, I puffed on my pen as a parent.
Mm-mm.
Oh my gosh, my kid's talking.
There's a study in Canada that showed that cannabis users as parents were more attentive to their kids and like to play with them more.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I remember the article was like, weed makes you better parents.
Yeah.
Not worse parents.
Let's
measure that down by how did your kid get to school on time? Did your kid right like obey the rules? Did you obey the rules? Do you have a job? Like those are regular measures of your ability to function in society as a parent. Not did you smoke a little weed,
Yeah, because
here and there.
You have kids.
Yeah.
I have kids. Jesse's got kids.
I got a boatload of kids.
Yeah, he just is better at hobbies than I am. So I have more diverse hobbies.
No, but I get what you're saying. I have talked to so many different individuals, and they said, I was always afraid of cannabis because I didn't want the stigma. My wife still has the stigma. Like, she's like, I have been very upfront with my kids. It didn't go over the top with them, but it just said, hey, look, this is why I use this. And let me teach you about this plant and what it does for you. I give them CBD. Like they know a lot about this plant. It was super funny. My wife she was like, I don't want my son knowing that I use this. I'm like, why not?
Right.
And she grew up within the Utah culture, very, Mormon background. And so it was like, that was bad, right? They're still with Nancy Reagan,
Yeah,
Bad.
my son recently had some kids over, boys and girls. They're in junior high, right? We have the same type of thing. So we have a liquor cabinet where I don't keep it locked. I teach my kids, don't go
Drinking liquor.
Don't go drinking liquor, right? And my son was much more worried about them seeing the liquor than he was them going into my office. And in my office, I have 3 huge blown up pictures that Randall Lewis took, that they're microscopic pictures of bud, right?
Yeah.
My favorite strains,
So
Mad
like
Max,
trichomes,
Fatso, right? So yeah, the trichomes and everything. And I have the Discover Marijuana poster and, these types of things in my office. And I feel like it's pretty professional, but it's a new professional, right?
Yeah.
Destigmatized cannabis. And I asked him, well, what about the office? He's like, oh, I can explain that. That's what you do for work. This over here, I can't explain. I can't explain the liquor cabinet.
To a bunch of Mormon kids.
To a bunch
in
of
Utah.
Mormon kids.
Yeah.
Right. But I can explain medical marijuana to them. And I thought, well, maybe things are changing a little bit. That's okay.
Yeah. I have been noticing that, like, as far as like with my son telling me about, like, has anybody ever talked to you about cannabis? He's like, a couple people asked me to go vape with them. I said, what'd you say? He goes, no, I'm good. He's like, I don't do it. And he goes, oh, you don't like it? People smoke? He goes, no, my dad smokes cannabis. So I'm fine with that. He's like, it's just, I know that's bad.
Right.
And that's cool because it when I was growing up, if somebody offered me that, I'd be like, the cool kids want to hang out with me. All right, cool. I'll
right.
try that
Now
cigarette.
it's just peer pressure instead of, now you're empowering your child with the knowledge of what to say.
Yeah.
They have a why.
Well, and the cool thing is I didn't teach him anything about it. I just taught him about the properties of cannabis and why tobacco is so bad for you.
Right.
And it comes from somebody, well, I was in the Navy. I smoked for 7 years before I met my wife. And I was a casual smoker and then full blown, like I'm going through a pack a day. Like when I was in the Navy.
I never got into it. Just cigarettes.
Unfortunately, I did myself too but I grew up in construction.
Oh yeah.
My family all smoked. I had to leave the industry, I feel like, to quit.
Is that what got you into medical?
No, what got me into medicine was losing my livelihood in 2008.
Oh yeah.
Because I owned a construction company that just we borrowed, and we were building homes for straw buyers, the people who would have a job and they would go to the bank and borrow money and then build a spec house. Mm-hmm. And we were building a bunch of those when the bank went under. And then shit just ran downhill. So I needed a job. So I went to work at the airport in 2010 and did concrete work and flat work concrete, owned my own business, just cash, and then was considering like either going back to law school or going to nursing school, actually. And so I was researching both. I got a job as a EMT at the University of Utah ER and instantly knew that I wanted to be a PA and wanted to go that route, wanted to go into medicine. Started volunteering and really building a resume to get into PA school. And then I lucked out and got into PA school. I figured in medicine, there's very little chance you can be out of a job.
Yeah.
But I thought, I'm sure there's lawyers who get out of law school and don't get good jobs. So medicine seemed like the better way to go.
Safer route.
It turned out awesome.
Yeah, my brother-in-law is a PA. He works for Wasatch Medical.
Yeah.
I think, yeah. And I mean, same thing. He had a hard time being able to decide exactly what he wanted to do, but once he got involved, he was like, "Oh, yep, this is it."
This is awesome.
And for him, the way he talks about it, it's its own addiction. You love the problems that keep coming up, and he works in a clinic, and so it's constant. So he's like, "I love it. It's just something new every day."
Yep.
So
it's really rewarding to see people change their life. We have actually seen that with cannabis specifically. We do a lot of research on our patients. We ask them questions when they come in. We know what medications they're on, what medications they struggle with, what's their goals, how are they using cannabis? And then we track that over time. And we can show now that we have a 90% success rate. Within 6 months of somebody starting cannabis, our patients reduce the use of a medication by at least 10%.
Yeah.
And 40% of our patients remove an entire medication within 6 months.
That's awesome.
So that data and how they're using cannabis and how that's interacting with their other medical choices was the catalyst towards launching from utahmarijuana.org to kindlymd.com, or KindlyMD, which is this. Look, it's hard to do a business when marijuana is in the name, right?
Yeah.
And so you've got to move away from that to kind of legitimize in healthcare. So KindlyMD is essentially that clinic. We manage medications. We prescribe what's needed. We get rid of what's not. We use whatever it takes to help the patient. If they want to get off medications, opioids specifically, we help them do that. And we have a therapist. The model is unique in that it allows people to use opioids and cannabis at the same time with education on both.
Yeah.
And then we pair what's called a BHC, a behavioral health consultant, and a prescriber to every visit. So you're not just getting prescription management, you're getting a little bit of targeted like life therapy.
Yeah.
Which in the beginning people are a little resistant to in general, but once you get used to it.
How many people just resist the idea of therapy in general? So
that's exactly right. Well, once you meet the BHC, and it's only 15 minutes, right? Like you don't have to spend your life. We're not talking about a full therapy session. We're just talking about like
your childhood here.
Yeah. What are you doing? What can you do? Yeah. Which is just like, what can you do this week or this month?
Right.
To make a difference in your pain.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it. That's all we're talking about. One thing.
Yeah.
And the outcomes are awesome. So yeah, last year, 2022 was essentially growing and launching that brand, which we switched over to in November and started seeing patients in December last year with KindlyMD. It's really fun.
Yeah, I was going to ask. I mean, it seems kind of interesting. Is it the age range as far as resistance towards being able to go down this path of having that?
Yes.
So there is an age range. So I would
say so. I mean, like I'm.
Are younger people more open to it?
Yes. The younger they are, the more open to it.
Yeah.
Gen Z, no problem, right? Like they grew up with therapy. This is part of their existence. Millennials, pretty open to it. Gen X, like us, we're a little bit like, I don't need your
because
shit.
The stigma is still there with them,
Yes.
right? They think Cheech and Chong. They think of that guy. I mean, some of my favorite quotes on cannabis, they're talking about like Joe Rogan. Pot screwed up my brother's life. He goes, no, it didn't. Your brother's just an idiot. If it wasn't pot, it would be scratch tickets and cheeseburgers that screwed up his life. So everybody wants to be able to point that, and that's where a lot of Gen Xers like us, they are like, they're still imprinted with the propaganda, the fear-based everything. Like the drug commercials got way better, right? Like that girl who's like, the cat starts talking to her, or the dog starts talking to her, like, I wish you were a better person instead of you smoking pot.
Right.
And he leaves, and it just going like, that chick's not on, she's not smoking weed. That chick's on cocaine and sleeping pills. There's no way she'd be like, oh, my cat's talking to me. This sounds okay.
No, she's on that. What is it? It's the legal version of weed that's terrible that they sell in all the shops. It's spice.
The spice.
Horrible
Yeah.
spice.
Like makes people see shit.
Well, and that's why I have a problem with Delta 8, because of the synthetic nature of it. And
you just don't quite know. There is decent Delta 8.
Yes.
Right? There is decent Delta 8, but a garage chemist who's converting CBD to trying to get to Delta 9, let's not mistake, they're trying to get all the way to Delta 9, but Delta 9 is not as stable a chemical as Delta 8. So you get to Delta 8, and that's a little easier, and then you got to sell it because we have all this CBD in the market.
Yeah.
And it's just
You don't quite know what you're getting.
Well, exactly that, because that's when Brandon and I, even from the same batch, like a gummy, you don't know if it just came out of like whatever pile that was being created. And
Yeah,
it's
that's
not just
true.
one specific plant. We're only dedicating these gummies for this one.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And
Came from probably a mix of all sorts of different stuff.
And so the effects are different each time, where one time I'm like, hey, this isn't bad. This is pretty decent. I like it.
Yeah.
I feel calm. Next time, heart's racing. I'm feeling jittery. I'm starting to get a headache, and I'm like, this isn't cool.
Yeah.
No, we tend to not recommend people inhale Delta 8. We tend to recommend Delta 8 when it's somebody who wants a mix, right? There's some plush gummies that Zion makes that are a mix of Delta 8, Delta 9.
Mhm.
Good for GI issues.
Yeah.
Good for people who want to relax. It's good manufacturer.
Do you like the experience?
I don't mind it, but I'm not a daytime Delta 8 user at all.
Okay.
So,
Are you a daytime Delta 9 user at all?
that's a good question. So we had talked a little earlier about the Missy's Micros, these gummies that we're developing.
Yeah.
And that is the perfect daytime for me.
Yeah.
3 milligrams THC, a good amount of CBD, CBG, other cannabinoids like THCV, which is okay with the metabolism. If you put all those things together, I'm on board for daytime use. That works really, really well for me. But I get a little nervous in meetings when I have too much Delta 9, and it is hard for me to pick the milligram that occurs at.
Yeah.
So I tend not to use it. I tend to underuse Delta 9 in the daytime because of that.
Well, it's safer than being overly anxious
Yeah.
or not being able to focus.
And it's not
right?
the function per se, it's the anxiousness. I just don't like
Odd.
the anxiousness of it.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not a sativa person. I freaking, and then I think
Yeah, I'm a
you're like
sativa.
that,
He
right?
loves
Like
them,
you
yeah.
like sativas
Mm-hmm.
and no sativas for you, right? Or
I
Every
limited.
so often.
I prefer my indicas,
Uh-huh.
definitely.
Yeah.
But
A middle of the road, though, I think anyone could meet is a true hybrid.
Yes.
True hybrid's great. I mean, it's a good social strain where it's like,
Oh, yeah.
okay, nobody's going to have
Right.
a panic attack or nobody's just going to pass out and be couch locked. Like,
And I
it's-
like that too. That for me is great. But even Jack Herrera, which isn't that's not a very strong strain
Mm-mm.
compared to some really high potency strains.
Yeah.
Jack Herrera, I'm paranoid out of my mind. I'm
Really?
setting a timer on my watch, man. I'm like, I
waiting for it to
I
come
did not-
down.
I wasn't this anxious 2 hours ago. I'm going to set a 2-hour timer.
That's
If I'm still
crazy.
this anxious, I'm calling my friend.
See, Jack
know.
Herrera is one of my favorites. I would say the more I consume, the deeper I will get into my work. And I become super, but I have a lot of, I have moderate to higher ADHD,
Mm-hmm.
and I can't focus on one thing at a time. I have a million ideas. I have dozens upon dozens of unfinished projects that I've worked on,
Yeah.
and the ideas that I'll come up with. But when I smoke something like Jack Herrera, where it made you like, I feel
Yeah.
like my bones want to jump out of my skin.
Yes.
I'm like just laser focused, and I'm so calm, and I'm happier than I've ever been. And I'll just sit there and write and create, and I'll get it done. But I think it has something to do with
an indica
ADHD.
dominant hybrid for me is that experience.
Mhm.
Yeah,
No
but-
problem. I'm writing.
I'm sleepy time.
Yeah. I'm in the zone.
Yeah, it really depends. For mine's mostly pain, but
Uh-huh.
I found that cannabis helps me with so many other aspects that I use it for more than just pain now. But I find that I can get that same focus with an indica or a sativa. It really just depends on me at the moment. But yeah, there are certain sativas that are just amazing for focus and getting stuff done.
Yeah.
But at the same time, there's certain indicas that are amazing for that too, because it really melts that pain away, which pulls me out
Yep.
of my back and lets me truly focus on it. which is whole different experience instead of just a sativa one that I'm like, man, I'm creative or I have all this, but I'm still like halfway in my back. So,
yeah.
You guys talk about this too, and you brought up a really good point where you're coming out of your pain and into focus. So this is what we found with people in general is that expectation that your pain is going to go away isn't real.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh,
People
absolutely.
your pain didn't go away. But my pain didn't go away, but it is easier to manage, and it brings you out of that so you can focus on stuff. That's why people are okay parents. Because they're not worried about that other thing.
Well, and it
makes me less grouchy too. I'm less likely
100%.
to respond over something stupid and get frustrated because I'm not hurting as much or I'm not sitting in that pain.
Mm-hmm.
So I can be present and go, what's really going on here? Like, am I just reacting because I'm frustrated or I'm in pain right now?
Right.
Or is there something more here? And it's a lot easier to take a step back when you're not in that. And yeah, like you said, cannabis, especially as a parent, really helps you be present.
Yeah. And the other side too, I really like what you said, because the pain is not going to go away. There's nothing that's going to take it away. But the great part about cannabis is when we're talking about different strains, I know that if I have a lot of pain, I use indica and I don't become sleepy. It takes care of my pain.
Yeah, but it doesn't. Isn't it interesting how cannabis, from a medicinal standpoint, I have a bad back. It'll spasm out once every. It was a year ago, February, the last time it happened to me. I'm down 3 days in bed.
Shit.
But when you use cannabis for something acute like that, you got to use a lot.
Yep. Oh yeah.
More than you thought you did.
More than your average bear.
Yeah, more than your average bear. Right? Where normally a 10 milligram gummy is like, that's great. That's the sweet spot. When something bad like that is happening, we're talking 50 milligrams. We jack the dose up way higher.
Oh yeah.
And it is not making you sleepy. It's just, or even feeling that stoned.
Yeah.
It's like
that
filling the gaps.
Yeah. So I did a trip across country a year ago. And for me, that's 24 hours of sitting in one position. That hurt. I was taking 200 milligrams every 2 hours and popping a pen.
Totally functional.
Didn't feel high, didn't feel stoned in the slightest, but it helped mitigate my pain to a certain level. Granted, I was also taking probably about 150 milligrams of CBD twice a day at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
But that's just the moments of...
But that's the great part of it, because it doesn't feel... I mean, it's not the dangerous approach of grabbing an opioid or even an over-counter, right? I mean, so many people not realizing taking so much acetaminophen or ibuprofen.
So much ibuprofen.
Yeah, it's just going to... And I used to do that. I had a screwed up gut for years because I was popping so much ibuprofen.
Yeah.
Because I was
like, is it 800 milligrams every 4 hours?
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Whoops.
What time? And I was in the Navy.
I'll just feel more.
In the military, you have 2 different doses of ibuprofen. You have civilian and military dose. So, over there, more probably will help you easy, right?
Right.
And they give them, instead of 800, they're giving 1,600 milligrams at one time, not realizing the problems that they're just to their GI health amongst a many other multitude. But using cannabis, I have used it less. And I mean, I use it like if it's an extreme bad headache, I'm usually going to a strain. And that's the cool part. I was telling Brandon, I feel like an apothecary sometimes. Like I should have some pointy.
I know
hat.
you've got your vape carts lined up. You're like, okay,
no,
focus. Maybe it's a sneak peek into what I've got.
Yeah,
you've got like focus, relax. A little bit of pain. This one makes me feel stupid.
Yeah.
You're like, I don't know what to do with this. I just don't like it because it just makes me feel dumb.
You give it to me, and I'll
his body.
You'll burn it.
He's like the Back to the Future 2. Remember that car would feed off of just anything?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, that's Brandon with any kind of candy. He's like, well, this is all going to go to pain.
He just needs to be in your downline.
Yeah.
Can I be in your downline?
But yeah.
We are in the right county for downline, right? That joke fits.
Definitely.
That joke works
It's so
in
well.
this this
totally.
area more
That
than
was
anywhere
also
else.
an issue with one of the CBD sponsors. Is their basis and premise was they're like MLM, and I'm like, I don't like that.
It's hard.
That has a
that's
dirty
hard
taste in my mouth.
Yeah.
And so that with like overpriced products and that, and then one of the people, I'm just like, I don't like your vibe. Like, you truly give me this weird vibe of, I don't feel like I trust you. And in cannabis, I feel like that's very much.
And there's a lot of them, though. There's a lot of CBD NLMs that are starting to come out.
Yeah.
And
There'll be more and more, I think, too.
Oh,
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I've talked to one just recently. They have a fun product, and it's Delta 9. There's some parts of it I don't necessarily like, but thinking about some of the things that you guys are developing right now, the big thing for me is those microdoses are great it's a great bridge for people who are scared to get into cannabis.
It's the key thing between us and the dispensaries, or what we call them in Utah, the medical cannabis pharmacies. And we don't feel like we're competing with those folks, because you can go down and buy, at the dispensary, your focus is just a little different. And they don't have any products that are low dose, like truly low dose, or truly what I would consider as a medical professional medical.
Yeah.
Frankly. So you need the bridge, especially in a conservative place like Utah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
We need an introduction. I see so many patients that come in and they just don't know where to get started.
Mm-hmm.
So we put videos out and we do flyers and pamphlets, how to find your just right dose. And then finally we made a product. So now you can say, oh, here, this is exactly what to use. This is how to use it. And if you need more, then absolutely, we can do that too. But you just need someplace to start.
Right.
And it is nice to know you can give it to your aunt and they don't need a card. That's just a bonus on top.
And it's
so that reduces the stigma even from even further.
Yeah, because you don't have to have a medical card in order to take this, in order to help.
Exactly. No. I'm sorry. I just popped in my head. That is a real cannabis conversation. Because if I can microdose with you, now let's actually talk about it, as opposed to you looking from the outside in, going bad. But once you're experiencing it, like everybody I know that is truly able to have a microdose of THC, they're just like, oh, so this is what it feels like.
Well, it changes their perspective. So my dad. We're going to have him on the show here shortly, but he's going to Germany to go get a back surgery in a couple of weeks.
Oh, wow.
He has 5 discs being fused and 3 replaced. And construction life, he grew up being a contractor, and his dad, and, so on. So he just has a lot of issues. But finally, I went over to his house like a month, 2 ago, and he had been taking edibles that I had made my grandma years ago for her chronic migraines that she had. Her dose was 15 milligrams.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a good place to start.
No, not usually.
No. And so I went over and I was
day.
like, hey, so how's your back? And he's like, oh, it's fine, but I've been starting to take THC. And I'm like, where are you getting that? And he's like, the chocolates from grandma. And I'm like, those are years old and they're not your dose. Like, throw them away.
Yeah, we'll start someplace. I will make you should start.
So I got him a tincture. I made him a tincture. And I'm like, this is specific for you. We're going to start at drops. We're going to start at 3 drops. See how that feels. Wait hours. After hours, it's fine. Take some more. And now he's using it every day, but he knows his dose.
Yeah, talking about stacking, right?
Yeah, layering, doing... I love layering. I like stacking different products.
Well, and he has another tincture that I gave him that's minor CBs. So CBD, CBN, CBG. and he's taking that as well
Yeah.
with his 3 drops, 5, I think he's 9 drops now. But even then, he can microdose and use his dose in something that is a better way to introduce, a much healthier way to introduce, and a much more medically specific of like, if you take this at this dose at this time, like, there's not that. You don't have that in these pens. You don't have that in the gummies, even at the pharmacies here.
No.
There's
there
intro dose.
isn't really an algorithm for providers in medical schools and residencies and PAs and nurse practitioners. We want algorithms. PAs, nurse practitioners, we follow algorithms. We're taught, follow the algorithm. If the algorithm doesn't fit, refer to a specialist. That's kind of it's a lot of what we learn as PAs, right? Because we do 85% of what physicians do, but that 15% is refer to a specialist.
Yeah.
And 85% of the time, the algorithm works really well.
Yeah.
So with cannabis, because there's no algorithm, there's no starting dose, there's no product you can prescribe or recommend, it becomes really hard to get people over the fence, like you were talking about, where we just need to start. Here, just try this to start. You can trust the product. You can trust the formula. You can trust that it's not going to get you just stoned out of your mind. You can trust that it's legal. It's okay. Now, there are always asterisks to that, right? Because if you take THC, you're going to fail a drug test if you happen to get hurt on the job.
Yeah.
So you need to know what you're getting into, and you need to be educated, but it's a good place to start.
But I think having that education also helps in having those conversations, even if you are hurt at work.
For sure.
You know, like, hey, yes, I'm not out smoking weed, but I do have this microdose that helps me focus. It is legal, but you will find it in my system. And I think that's a lot of it is when you work with someone for a while, there should be some kind of relationship, some kind.
If you're important enough to the company, they should have the conversation with you, right?
Well, and I'm seeing more now. There's less and less companies that are actually testing for THC, which is nice.
I think so, for sure.
Yeah.
Because it with so many people having it readily available, it's almost ridiculous. Now, I
read somewhere 1 in 5 Americans has used it within the past 6 months.
Yeah.
Oh, I'd believe that easily.
A THC product.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. How do you continue to keep that? I mean, it's like the last, they're like hanging on, like, come on, this is why it's illegal. This is why, because you won't be able to keep your job. And it's just, why? And of course, I mean, we know why. There's multiple reasons why. But being able to break down that guard of that's why microdosing is so, I see, very important. Like, I have a lower tolerance. I can feel it. And the best thing I can say is I'm happy. I'm chilled out. If I'm stressed out, I'll take that. Brandon's been I've had to get off of antidepressants and anxiety medication twice. And this last time I knew more about the first time I got off it, I had no idea what I was doing.
Right.
I got a pen from Colorado and I just smoked that, and it made me feel great to the point where I could get off my anxiety medications. And I got off Celexa. And I was so happy about it because the side effects suck. And then later on, I'm on it again, and I had to tell him, like, yeah, I'm taking this because I had a massive, it was during the pandemic, and one card just kept stacking on another, and it broke. And I broke as I was like, I can't even smoke cannabis right now. I can't take anything cannabis. It puts me in a full-blown panic attack. So but now knowing what we know, and just like what you guys are doing, you're educating on a very micro level, help you understand every part of the plant and what it does and the products that can be made, not just because it's fun, but it's convenience. And that's the thing that everybody wants right now, right? I want to feel better now.
Yes.
Well, cool. There's so many different types of products to be able to help you feel better, not necessarily take away pain.
And then you want to take that and you want to use that as a pivot point to change your health long term. To get off the Celexa, to stop drinking so much, to start exercising and lose a little weight, right? People really want results now. They want to feel something now. THC cannabis products are good for that.
Yeah.
because they're effective in 10 minutes
Yeah.
if you're using an inhaled method, right?
Yeah. Or even like sublingual, you get tinctures that are like you
Yeah.
hold under your tongue. I'm 5 to 15 minutes, depending on the product, that I can feel it. And I'm like, okay, that's great. My CBD tinctures, I'm always holding under my tongue.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so you can do that and feel it right now.
And then you use that. What we found that's interesting beyond that is cannabis is a great entry point to that discussion. You destigmatize it, but it isn't actually the cannabis that makes the difference long term.
No.
It's the opening up of the mind that says, actually, I have control. I don't have to do it like I've been told to do it.
Hey, thanks for tuning in. So we just cut the episode short to respect your time. If you want to catch the rest, go ahead and get the link below and finish it on Patreon.